Hi everyone, so I'm just creating this video as a bit of a summary of what we've learnt so far in semester 2 of stage 1 PE, just to give a little bit of a wrap up of what we learnt at the end of term 2 and a little bit of an idea of where we're going to be heading next. So obviously our topic in PE so far has been focused around energy, and we've talked about the conversion of food to energy and what food sources allow us to store energy in our body. So if we just start off first, we can talk about energy being broken up into three main areas, okay? We can talk about energy as chemical. We can talk about energy, secondly, as potential energy, okay, which is stores. And thirdly, we talk about energy as kinetic. Okay. Looking first, when we're talking about chemical energy, so this is what we've been covering so far. Chemical energy is from the foods that we eat, and our food sources for chemical energy are protein, we have fats, and finally, and the one that we focused on the most, was our carbohydrates, and I'm just going to write that here as carbs, okay? So when we eat these three food groups, we are consuming chemical energy, okay? Now these three chemical energies, when they go into our body and are converted, they become potential energy because our body breaks them down and stores them in our body for potential energy, okay? So it's stored energy. So if we just go back and look at carbs for a minute and what we looked at with our carbs, remember we spoke about our glycemic index. And this was about the effect that different carbohydrate foods have on our blood glucose levels. So remember, carbohydrates can be rated as either high or low GI. And we talked about the graph, and we looked at this graph a number of times where we had time, and on the other axis we looked at the blood glucose levels. So if you think back when we talked about high glucose foods, okay, high GI foods, which are foods like pure sugar, things like that, okay, lollies, cakes, they give you this boost, they give you this big spike of energy, okay? And it comes, but then it's a sharp decrease. And the trouble with that sharp drop is that it causes our blood glucose to drop below our normal levels of blood glucose, which is where you start to feel tired, you feel hungry, irritable, all those things, which is obviously not what we want, and especially for long-term energy, it's not an effective thing. Whereas if you consume low GI foods, you still get the spike, but it's over a gradual amount of time, and your glucose gradually decreases without having that drop below your normal blood glucose level, so you're not left feeling tired and hungry. And remember we talked about when we were looking at the glycemic index about the importance of athletes choosing the right foods with their competitions and when to consume low GI and high GI foods while they're competing, okay? So come back down now. We can look at, come back here. So we've got these three food groups, the chemical energy, are stored in our body. So it's as potential energy. And we can have stored in different areas of our body, and our carbs get stored as glycogen or glucose, okay? Remember, they can be stored in the muscles, in the liver. And any excess carbohydrates get stored in our body as fats. When we want to move, we are looking at our kinetic energy. So any movements that we want to produce, we are using kinetic energy. So kinetic energy is directly related to movement. In order to move, we need something to provide that energy for movement, which is where we use our potential energy to create kinetic movement. At the centre of all kinetic movement is a molecule called ATP. And this is going to be a little bit of a focus over the next few weeks as we're learning about the 3 energy systems and how they use ATP to create kinetic movement. So this just gives you a general overview of sort of what we have learnt so far and where we'll be heading. So we're going to be learning about 3 energy systems and their interplays of how we use those energy systems to move and be active.